This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Tuesday, November 15th, 2023. I'm Kate Sharon. St. Joseph County economic development leaders say another big company is eyeing the new Carlisle area with an investment similar in size and scale to the $3 billion General Motors and Samsung SDI electric vehicle battery plant announced earlier this year. In a meeting last week, the county's redevelopment commission approved a facilitation and reimbursement agreement with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and Razor 5, a limited liability company from Delaware, so that the company can survey several privately owned parcels within the new Carlisle economic development area. St. Joseph County Economic Development Director Bill Shalio.
So right now at this point in time, Razor 5 is the LLC name for a group that's representing a development company. And so they're just coming in at this point in time. It's still low level, pretty, looking at it from a high perspective. Will the site work? Will it be able to meet zoning? Will it be able to meet soil conditions so that you could build a project?
Revelations of the company's interest in the area come just as county officials sought to expand the boundaries of the new Carlisle economic development area in a decision this week highly unpopular among nearby residents. County officials, however, say that their steps are necessary to fund infrastructure improvements and actually give homeowners more bargaining power for their property in the area. A pair of environmental groups is preparing to file a lawsuit against Pittsburgh-based Alcoa Corporation over alleged violations of the Clear Water Act. The Sierra Club and Environmental Integrity Project have sent a notice of intent to sue, claiming Alcoa's smelting plant has dumped illegal amounts of mercury into the Ohio River. A recent report from the Environmental Integrity Project said the smelter, which was built in 1960, exceeded its legal limits on discharges of mercury into the river 32 times between 2018 and 2023. Overall, the smelter violated its water pollution control permit at least 101 times during the same period, the group said. The organization said the smelter is, quote, the aluminum industry's worst violator of water pollution laws in the United States. South Bend-based Holiday Properties plans to build an 800,000-square-foot warehouse in its distribution center in St. Joseph County that it says Elkhart-based Lippert will use to expand its presence, according to documents filed with the St. Joseph County Council. Holiday and Lippert's components company, LCI Services Corporation, are seeking tax abatements for the more than $50 million project, which the documents say could bring 100 new jobs to the county. Holiday said in the documents that Lippert plans to sign a 10-year lease for the building with HP Old Cleveland Partners, LLC, an entity controlled by Holiday. From the number one source for Indiana Business News, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation invite you to Engage Central Indiana, presented by CareSource, Indiana University, and Old National Bank. You won't want to miss our fireside chat with Governor Holcomb and the Michael A. Carroll Award presentation to Mitch Daniels. Plus, we'll dive into the important issues shaping the region's economy. It's December 6th at the JW Marriott in downtown Indy. RSVP at ibj.com/engage.
Voting on a tentative contract agreement between General Motors and the United Auto Workers Union that ended a 6-week strike against the company appears too close to call after the latest tallies at several GM factories were announced Wednesday. IIB's Alex Brown has more.
The union hasn't posted final votes yet, but workers at several large factories who finished voting in the past few days have turned down the 4-year and 8-month deal by fairly large margins. The vote tracker on the UAW's website Wednesday showed the deal ahead by 958 votes, but those totals do not include votes from GM assembly plants in Fort Wayne and Lansing Delta Township, Michigan, and a powertrain plant in Toledo, Ohio, which all voted against the agreement, according to local union officials. More than 60% of workers at GM's Fort Wayne truck plant voted no, according to results from Local 2209, the Detroit News reported. In most cases, the vote tallies range from 55% to around 60% against the contract. However, in Arlington, Texas, the vote was 63% in favor. Spokesman for both the union and General Motors declined to comment while the voting continues. It wasn't clear what would happen next, but local union officials don't expect an immediate walkout if the contract is voted down. Voting continues at Ford, where the deal is passing with 66.1% voting in favor so far, with only a few large factories still counting. The contract was passing overwhelmingly in early voting at Jeep maker Stellantis. Alex Brown, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
The Indianapolis Public Schools Board unanimously approved a new 2-year labor contract on Tuesday that gives teachers an average of 3% in raises plus more time off. The contract, which Indianapolis Education Association members voted to ratify last month, bumped starting pay in the district from $50,400 to $51,900 in 2023-24 and raised it again to $53,460 the next year. Current teachers can also increase their base salary based on their educator evaluation ratings, their years in service in IPS, and whether they serve in high-need subject areas. Those pay increases range from $1,850 to $2,790 for 2023-24 and $1,900 to $2,870 for 2024-25. Teachers who are rated as ineffective or needing improvement, however, are not eligible for an increase. An interim land use task force sets its sights on food insecurity on Tuesday, recommending legislation to make it easier for Hoosiers to qualify for food assistance, fund transportation, or delivery for their groceries and more. Lawmakers and lay people representing a variety of industries additionally approved more than 36 recommendations on zoning, farmland preservation, infrastructure and redevelopment incentives, housing assistance, healthcare access, and beyond. David Finlay was appointed chairman of the board for Lakeland Financial Corporation and its subsidiary Lake City Bank. The Warsaw-based company announced his appointment this week. Finlay, who will retain his current role as CEO, follows Michael Kubacki, who served as chair since 2003. Finlay will assume the position next year after Kubacki's planned retirement during the company's annual stakeholders meeting April 9th. 23-year-old Carmel, Indiana filmmaker Ashton Gleckman is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Kate Sharon for Inside Indiana Business, Radio on Demand.